Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm Rami G, and I read scary stories on the internet so you don't have to do it alone. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button if you like the scary side of YouTube. But let's get to the chase. Today's story consists of a night out with friends having the time of your life, and ending up in one of the most horrible positions you can imagine. This is the story of Alison Botha. Roll that intro. It was December 1994, and 27-year-old Alison Botha had returned to her apartment after dropping her friend Kim off at home. She spent the afternoon at the beach with her friends in Port Elizabeth, one of the largest cities in South Africa. Everyone had gotten back to Alison's apartment to eat pizza and play Boulder Dash. The tall brunette had been head girl in her high school. She was confident and well-spoken. After traveling for a number of years, Alison was working as an insurance broker, a job which she enjoyed. That night, she had promised to drop Kim off at home afterwards, and now it was around 1 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Alison discovered she had lost her very convenient car spot right outside of her apartment. She searched for another within walking distance. Then she found it. There was a space under a big tree, big enough to block out the lights on an already poorly lit road. She was looking forward to getting into bed after a cold shower, and so she pulled in and reached over to get her clean laundry out of the passenger seat to bring upstairs. That's when she felt a gust of warm air. The car door had been flung open, and standing before her was a scrawny but tall young man with blonde hair. Immediately, Alison spotted a knife. "Move over or I'll kill you," the man said in a low, matter-of-fact voice. She did exactly what he said. He climbed into the driver's seat and put his foot on the accelerator. After a few moments, he assured her, "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to use your car for an hour." At that point, Alison chose to believe him. She considered jumping out of the moving car, but found herself frozen. She begged the man, who called himself Clinton, to take her car and leave her, but he refused. He had something he needed to do. Someone owed him money. He wouldn't be long. Clinton drove them to one of the main streets in Port Elizabeth and spotted the person he was frantically looking for. He told him, a man who he called Thenis, "Jump in and meet my new friend Alison." The three drove to the outskirts of Port Elizabeth, an entirely deserted area her family had always warned her to steer clear of. What happened next was so violent and so unimaginably horrific. The details would be etched into the collective consciousness of South Africa for decades to come. When they stopped in the brush, Alison knew something very bad was going to happen. They told her they would have sex with her, and asked if she was going to fight. Alison, who had no idea how to fight, said no. After the two men had sexually assaulted her, they attempted to suffocate Alison, at which point she became unconscious. She was then stabbed upwards of 35 times, mostly in her abdomen. The two men assumed she was dead, but then her leg twitched. Thenis decided to cut her throat no less than 17 times. No one could survive that, one of Botha's attackers said, but they were wrong. Botha survived. The men left Botha to die, and for a moment she thought she would. "I know I had to at least leave a clue about who did this to me, so I wrote their names in the sand, and 'I love you, Mom,' beneath it," said Alison. Determined to live, Botha decided to move towards headlights she had seen through the bushes. As she got up, her intestines nearly fell out. She held them in using a denim shirt she found at the scene. "It was time to move," said Alison. "I crawled struggling through the dirt and broken glass, my one hand holding my shirt and my intestines in. With each successive movement, I became increasingly tired. At some point, I collapsed into the sand, exhausted." Crawling proved too slow for Alison, so she decided to walk. After getting up, her head fell onto her back. The attackers had sliced so extensively that they nearly decapitated Alison. Botha walked, with one hand supporting her intestines and the other her head. I pulled my head forward with my free hand and my vision returned, at least temporarily, Botha explained. As I struggled forward, my sight faded in and out, and I fell many times, but managed to get up again and finally reached the road. A veterinary student stopped and helped the struggling Alison. He kept her conscious long enough for paramedics to arrive. Dr. Alexander later stated that in his 16 years as a doctor, he'd never seen such severe injuries. Alison's surgery lasted 3 hours, and after 3 weeks, she left the hospital. She remembered everything about the attack, helping authorities arrest her attackers. The Reaper rapists were tried and convicted, one of the most highest profile cases in South Africa. Judge Chris Jensen sentenced the pair to life in prison. Botha survived because none of the 54 knife thrusts nicked the main artery. Therefore, she did not bleed to death and kept breathing through a severed trachea. That wasn't, however, the end of Alison's story. She struggled with serious depression following her attack and could not work. She knew this event had changed her irreparably and did not know how to move forward. So Alison began traveling around the world telling her story. She became the first South African woman to speak publicly about her experience of rape, and in 1995 won the prestigious Rotarian Paul Harris Award for Courage Beyond the Norm. In the same year, she received Femina magazine's Woman of Courage Award and was pronounced Port Elizabeth Citizen of the Year. It was unclear for many years if Alison would be able to have children, given the extent of her injuries sustained in her organs. But then, in 2003, 9 years after the attack, Alison gave birth to a son named Daniel. 3 years later, she had Matthew. Now, 24 years later since she almost lost her life in the deserted bushlands of Port Elizabeth, Alison is widely considered one of South Africa's most inspiring figures. Life can sometimes make us feel like the victim. Problems and hardships and traumas are dished out to all of us. Sometimes they can be divided very unfairly, Alison said recently in a Good Housekeeping interview. Remind yourself that you don't have to take responsibility for what others do. Life is not a collection of what happens to you, but of how you respond to what happens to you. Many of these details within the story were drawn from I Have a Life, Alison's journey. Unfortunately, guys, that's all the time we have for today. Let me know what you think of the story in the comments below. Also, leave a like and subscribe if you like this content. I'm going to leave you guys with a few things. 1, I have a Twitch channel. I'll leave a link in the description down below. One of her attackers reached out to her from prison and asked for an apology letter and some royalties from her movies and books. She swiftly declined the offer. Until next time, guys. Sweet dreams.